Welcome back. So today I thought I'd just open the show by having a bit of a chat to you about where we're up to, and I get a lot of comments and questions coming through, and I really appreciate that. But to let you know where we're up to with the build, from a timeline point of view, what you see on the show is pretty much where we're at. So if I'm doing the steering wheel, I've done that this week. So what I'm trying to do is to continue to bring you interesting footage every fortnight. But we're at that stage now with bodywork where it's a bit same every day, every week, and it's going to be that way for a while. So I'm going to try and put bits and pieces in of what I'm doing on the side as well, but the build is continuing to go along, and a lot of the time being spent on the trim, and Simon's going to have some really good stuff for us to shoot very soon, because he's about to put some leather on those seats and things. So what you see is what we're up to, and the way the channel's going at the moment, I've been really excited. We've just done the 10,000 subscribers, and I can remember not that long ago where we thought we'd never get to 5, and now we're at 10. And the way that's progressing, I'm thinking by the end of the year, by Christmas, we should be getting towards about 15. So thank you for those of you that have subscribed, and that just helps us to make the channel work and to continue to grow. And the other thing that's about to happen is, I would think by the time you see this, we'll be at 1 million views since we started. Now, that sort of blows me away. I can't quite comprehend that. 1 million people watching my face of what we're doing, but it's obviously working, and we're continuing to evolve the sort of footage we put out to keep people involved and giving you guys the sort of stuff you want to see. Now, the other part of the channel is obviously to make it work. I need people like mothers to help with the process for us to be able to do the editing, to have the quality products, to be able to produce the product that we do. And I'm really excited to be able to say that mothers have now continued their support, and I'll be working with them and PPG as I have for a long time now, and it's a pleasure to work with companies that have such great product. Makes my job easier, and to make it official now is really good that we're going to continue that relationship for another 12 months as a minimum. So enjoy the show. I've got a little bit more bodywork coming up and a few small things that are happening around the place, and we'll then move forward into the next program. One of the little things I said I would talk to you about that we've been working on is the mirrors. So the external mirror on the Falcon on this model is, that standard mirror, and the fact that we have all the FG components and the electrics, I really wanted to try and work on how I could get the electric motor out of the FG mirror to fit into this. So what we've been able to do is cut down that big bulky late model mirror, and the actual mechanism is that size. So we've cut it down. You can see the face there, which is this face under there, and cut it down to a point whereby it would fit in the mirror. And then we've pulled apart a few of these now to get enough components to be able to take that piece out that clips in, and it's got some glue on it which we'll glue back in. So we've taken that out, and then we've had to open it up a bit to be able to fit this in, and then we needed somehow or other to be able to mount that, and preferably to be able to service it. So what we've done is taken the bracket off the back of one of these mirrors and glue that with some urethane into this mechanism. So this little bracket here is that piece there, and we've urethane that in, which is really solid. And then that now, when it goes into the mirror, will mount with the screw up through here like that. So that screw that holds that standard mirror in now holds that mechanism nice and tight. And then we've cut the back out of the mirror, the plastic, and been able to plastic weld it to this frame. So what I've got to do now is get some new ones of these and then go through that same process again. So once that goes together, we put that on there and then put it in the mirror and put the screw in from the bottom. It'll actually fit in there, and then they're adjustable with the electrics on the standard FG switch, which will be in the door trim. So we'll have that whole FG mechanism working through the electrics, which I think's quite amazing that we've been able to jam it all in there. But one of those little jobs that I've just been working away at on the side, and I got Darren to spend half a day the other day just to finalise the plastics part of it, and we've now got a result, so we can go forward with that, and as you can see, start cleaning them up, get them ready for some paint. One of the things about modifying all the time is the extra work it makes. So if this was a standard bumper and it was going to be painted inside, you know, wouldn't take much to finish it. The problem is when you cut things up and reshape, you then end up with all the lines on the inside. So because this part especially is very visible from in the wheel arch side of it, so if we're at a show with the wheel off it, we need to do something about that. So this was epoxied, we've put some filler in it now, sanded through, cut through a lot. I'll re-epoxy that now and put some high build primer on it, and then that'll be ready to be painted when we go to the paint process. This is the last panel that I've got now in bare metal, and it's been hanging around for ages, so I'm just going to show you a little bit now. I've just given it a light deoxidine with a Scotch-Brite to get a nice flat finish on it in the sheen, because I'm going to utilise and show you how I use a file, not to file finish the panel, but to highlight the highs and the lows that'll let me just fix those up. So the panel's pretty good. It's had a fair bit of work done to it. These are, you know, I've said before where I've cut them, but just a normal file. And what I'm going to do now is run it up and down the panel, and it'll highlight any issues that I've got. Now if I get Louise to bring that camera over and try and get the right angle there, you can see the high spots that are shiny and the lows where it hasn't touched. So I have had the file on there previously. To me it's quite distinct, but it's probably not going to show so much in the camera. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to look there to find out, so I've obviously got a low here where it's not touching at all. So now I'm going to work out and use one of my dollies or a hammer to actually just get in from the back of that. And just give that a light tap. So from down here, Louise, I'm getting a pretty good look with the light. You can see that there. So now I'll give it a hit. You can see there where the dolly actually hit it and has brought it up to the surface. It's a fairly slow process, and what I can do is put the dolly in from the back. So if I use something, the radius on that, I need something similar, so the shape of that face and the shape of this face, and I'm going to put a bit of pressure on the low part and then tap around. And when you hit the dolly, you'll hear the sound change. Here it gets a different sound. Well, that's when the dolly's right where it needs to be. And now if I run my file back over, so I've gone from having a full circle there that was low to now having a couple of small areas that were low, and we're talking, you know, less than a millimetre. So you could pretty much move on if you want. If you're doing full file finish, then you should be able to have the whole thing shiny. And I mean, that's a very lengthy process, and it's not something I normally do. There's quite a big low in there. And if we come down the front, you might come around behind me, Louise. Where I've welded this front on, you can see where I've had the file on it before. When I rub that over, you can see I need to get this area up and this area up. Now it's double panel in here, so it's a little bit harder, so I'm going to have to use something like one of these, where I can push something in from the back and push that up, or something like this. So I might just do a bit of that, and Louise can use the camera and we'll maybe speed it up. So I've got the head of a round head of a hammer jammed in from the back about here, and I'll show you can hear where the head of the hammer is, and I need that up. So one of the options to get something up is to put pressure from the back and knock the rest down. So you'll hear the head of the hammer's right there. I need that up a bit. So I'm going to push some weight with this left arm. Just move that along a bit. And I'll see whether that moved. By rubbing the file on it. So what I've done is I've moved this line over a couple of mil. So I'll push a bit more here, knock that down. Work out what I'm going to put in there. You just need something to hold that point up. So that's gone up here. Now I'm down to a small dot there now. So now I'm going to try and get this bit up, but we've welded through here, so it's going to be a little bit harder. Now it's getting a lot closer, and people might look at this and think, well, why didn't you do that before you put it all together? We had to weld an inner panel on and then get it on and shape it to the bonnet and everything else, and when you do all of that, quite often you're going to lose a little bit of your shape. So when I put the ruler on there, you come in from the top there, Louise, you'll actually see that I'm chasing next to nothing. And that's when someone says they've got a car file finished, it means that there's no filler at all. So I need a little bit more in there. But I mean, up here where I'm working, that's, you know, minuscule, what's left there. So I'd be happy with that. I probably need to do a little bit more just up in here, but that's the process. It's time consuming, but it limits the amount of filler you're going to put in. So I've just run the file over this area just to try and find something I can show you. So this must have been an old dent, like that style of dent, and it's had a bit of a push. So that round circle there, I'm just going to put the round dolly in behind that. Just tap that down around while there's a bit of pressure on it. Watch me toes. You see there, I've picked that up a little bit too much, and there's just one more there. So another couple of little hits on that. I'll put this one back in here now. I'll probably use this face, it's got that slight curve in it. It's a different shape here than what I was doing up there. And you can hear how solid or tinny that sounds. That's because the dolly's in the right spot. So once again, we've reduced a full circle down to a couple of dots. Now you can keep going, you can tap, 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 file, 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 but you've got to remember not to tap too much or you're going to end up doing this to the metal. And if you have highs and you file them too much, obviously you're going to take more metal off and it's going to get thinner. So once again, my aim is to minimise my filler, not to have no filler. So I'm looking for what I've got, and I mean that's all looking nice and flat. and it feels nice. I'm just making sure that I've got them all down. So there's a few little nasties in here where I've welded it. So I'll have a bit of a go at that next. So I've run the file over that, and like I said, this has had a lot of heat on it and a lot of welding, and that tends to pull things around. But you can see here where I've got a curve there that's shiny and there and through here. So I've got a low there and a big low here. I'm just going to take the back of this one, and I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but with a bit of weight, oh yeah, I can see it. So I can just rub that on the back to push that up a bit, and then I'm going to try and dress that down a little. So I'm just going to take that same shape as we used a minute ago. And part of the thing to think about with your dolly on the back, it's not always hard against it. I'm going to try and have the dolly along this edge so I can knock that down a bit. So here that's drummy. So there's the dolly. I want to move it along a bit. Just to knock that down, and hopefully then I've pushed that up. So I'm going to give it another rub with the back of this one. And I'm obviously pushing fairly hard on that. That's why you've got to spend a bit of time in the gym. And just like magic, the file's now touching all this area. And I've just got a smaller one. So that was one big round circle that was low. Now I've only got a smaller one. So I've got a double panel about here. So I'm just going to try and get that front bit. It's that double panel you can hear me banging against. Get my dolly back in there. So I'm going to be behind this, try and knock that down a bit. And it's a very subtle blow, and I'm sort of hitting it and sliding it. There's the dolly, you can hear it. You see now I've got a line there. No, there's not much left there now. Very little, less than a mil. So that's what I'm after. So now I'm going to keep working along here. I've got a bit to do here, and I've got a low here. That'll get all that top done. I'll tidy the bottom up, get some epoxy on it, because next week is filler week. So this is the shop-filled leather bag. So that big one there, I want to push it up, so I'm going to give it a hit with that, in line with that, but I'm going to put this on here instead of just my hand, because it'll hold this down while that comes up. That's the idea. And then I can give it a rub. Straight away I've picked up I've just got a little circle. So now the circle one, and change my dolly to this one, find the centre of it, put that over, got a little bit low, that's the 2 dents there from those 2 hits. So now I'll put this one back in. Knock them down, give it a rub. Those 2 dots have gone down now, and now I'm virtually touching all the way through there. So that now feels way better through remembering there's a weld through here, that's what I'm chasing out at the moment. Now I've got 2 more to do there. With the wheel arches on these guards, traditionally I've always trimmed them down a bit narrower and then turned them over. And over the years, and I think I did this one for the Mustang, I've actually made up a block. So that standard block looks like that. And then I've actually ground the back of it down so I can utilise that to come in from behind and then hammer that edge down around that curve to give me a nice return there. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is it looks nicer, but more importantly it stops the tyre grabbing hold of that square edge, because from the factory it's square and the tyre tends to want to pull on that and obviously then wreck the guard. So I like to turn them over. And one of the issues with an XC is it has a little section here that is pressed quite square. And when I've gone to hammer that up, I'm not happy with it. So I'm going to use the oxy to heat it up to actually get a bit more formation. So I've obviously had to play with this somewhere along the lines and never got to finish it, probably because I got to that point. And as everyone knows, I'm ADHD, so I probably went, I'll go and do something else. So now we're at the finish stage, I need to get it finalised. So I'm going to go straight here, then turn it over, and then back to straight to pick up the spoiler. So I've got Darren to hang on to the oxy and hang on to the guard while I'm belting the hell out of it, and we'll give it a go. I'm going to try and keep that heat just on the edge. Quickly bring it up to red hot, like that. And put my earmuffs on. So you just got to remember, if you're going to put a whole lot of heat there, if you have it really hot and then you hammer it a lot, it's going to stretch it and it's going to want to bend that guard and change the shape. So the heat helps to move it quick, but you just got to be careful you're not changing the shape at the same time. Now I've traditionally done these cold, but just with a little bit of heat, it's surprising how quickly much quicker it moves. So that's getting that nice round shape with this back edge going back down so the tyre's not going to grab it. I'm just going to trim this one off now, make it the same width where it's grown a bit. It'll be looking good. So we've got that flat edge there now, and then a nice gentle transition over. Now I'm happy with how that's going. I've got rid of that little step, and I've trimmed that back, so we've got that nice shape. Now, to do that edge, this is a woodworking tool that I bought, you know, somewhere for $5 or whatever. So it's got the little sharp pin on it, and that's adjustable. And these are really good if you want to make that the same width all the way around. You can put it on there, work out your width, and then it'll actually scribe a line. So they're really cheap, really good tool, and I use it quite regular. So now I'm just going to bit more heat around here and tidy this up. And now from here, we've got to match the other side. On the other side, I've used this line as where the transition starts. So I just need a little bit more here now, and that'll match the other side. So once again, this is my way of trying to keep it looking factory, but just finessing all those little edges that makes it a bit nicer than they were from the factory, more functional in relation to tyres catching and that sort of stuff, but not necessarily modified. So that's my style and what I like to do. The top edge of these are a little bit of a pain because it's got that pressing in the top of it, and in the past, I think on my Mustang I might have taken those out because it's a little bit difficult to work with. I've decided on this one to stick with that, and we've done the other side, and I've got some footage there already with the two guards on and the variation. So there's a couple of things I want to do here. Firstly is get this top edge to be consistent, because from the factory they tend to go like this. So we're going to measure that and trim that a bit, but I also want to straighten this flange up. And the problem is if you put the shrinker stretcher on here and I go too deep, I'm going to mess up those lines. So I'm going to stick it on the steel table, do a bit of hammering and a bit of drift, and then we're going to have to put it in the shrinker stretcher on these edges that are really bent to actually pull some metal back into itself. So we'll get started on that and show you how we do it. So the first thing I'm doing is just trying to straighten it up, and some of it's not going to come out until we put it on in the stretcher, or the shrinker in this case. So that looks better already. So I'm going to put it on this hard table. Put on that edge. You can hold that up square for me. So these are from the concrete section at Bunnings or wherever you buy your stuff. So it's just a bolster, and I've radiused the end of that so it's not a point anymore. It's actually got a nice round face on it. And I've got that out at the moment because I want to sit it in that ridge, because if it's not straight I can use that if I get the right hammer. Oh, that's a bit bigger than I need, but it'll do. My little one's not there. So I'm just going to sit that in the ridge. And knock that down, because it's obviously had a little kink there at some stage. Now this centre bit's high, so I need to turn it over. Now what I'm trying to avoid is having something that's sitting up, because if it's sitting up, when I go to do my filler work, or my primers, it's not going to work. Just come down a bit. That's the one there I was chasing, I think. I've got a dent there. I'm going to have to put a little bit of something under it and knock it down. Let's go back over. Righto, so it's a bit stretched through the bolt hole there, and we want a bit there, so we'll just show you how we do that. Righto, so what we're going to do here now is I've just got that sitting in the shrinker, so it's going to just pull that metal together, and we don't want to do too much of it. Just give it a little touch, Darren. Right, we'll go along a bit. Let's go again. Righto, that'll do. Now what should have happened is it's pulled that metal together and straightened it up. So now we just got to get down here. So fortunately those ribs stop back there, so we can do a bit more down here. We don't hit Louise with the camera. Wants a little bit there next to that rib. A little bit there. Just next to that bolt hole. Righto, so what we might do is just slip that back on the car. I've got this in, Darren, just put him back on the car. Just hold him there for a second. So what we've got now is a more consistent line, but I need to shrink that a bit, and probably a bit through here, because it's just got that. So when that bolts down there and bolts down there, it's going to have a high through there. So I just need to, if I just try and bend that down, it'll go the other way. So I need to shrink that edge. So I'll make a little mark on there with something. Good on you, Darren. And a little bit on that one as well. You look. So when we look along there with the camera, you can see how this one now is a lot better. And if I do push that up a bit, it's not going to be too far. So see how this one's hanging up? So now I've got to shrink that one a bit. Okay. So that's pretty close. I could just about push that around with my hands and my thumbs now, so I'm happy with that. And it's so much better than it was, so we'll just persevere a bit. You can see there when that outside comes up to where it's meant to be. I just want a little bit more down there. That's the sort of things we do to go through the process to get that really nice finish, and you look at it and you go, it's factory, but why does it look so neat? Because it takes time, that's what it is. just trying to start it without saying so. Because I always say, so now. Oh, yeah, righto.